used a range of production and editing techniques in our film opening to portray the horror genre. I researched the typical conventions of horror films, and we have used, developed and challenged these in our opening. In this video, I will include clips from my own film opening to evidence the techniques we have used, whilst also comparing our opening to other films within the horror genre. Our film conforms to the conventions of a horror film in terms of setting. Most horror films are set in isolated and dark locations, much like ours. However, we also wanted our location to be realistic so that our audience could relate and imagine themselves in the situation. We decided on a dark lane as it appears to be creepy but also has some relevance. Some settings in horror films are too eccentric and restrict the audience from relating to the film. Films such as Yellow Brick Road, Friday the 13th and Cabin in the Woods all have similar settings to ours, thus proving that our film follows this convention. By following this convention, it makes the genre of our film apparent immediately and would appeal to our target audience. We decided to use camera shots that are expected of the horror genre, for example tracking shots and close-ups, as they play a vital role in creating tone and atmosphere. We used a close-up shot as we pan down the antagonist's arm to reveal her clutching a weapon. The pan is quite slow and thus builds tension. A close-up is used on the weapon, making it take up a large proportion of the camera frame. This therefore means that it is the focus of our audience's attention and allows us to further build tension and fear. We used tracking shots on a handheld camera as we followed our protagonist walking down the lane. This gives the impression that she is being followed, something typical of the horror genre. Later in our opening, during the attack, we use high-angle shots of our antagonist to connote her dominance. We also decided not to film the victim during this scene as a way of maintaining the tense and angry atmosphere we had built up. Doing research prior to filming our media product meant that we were able to incorporate shots that are commonly used in horror films. They help to build up tension and suspense, which is something we were looking for and believe we have achieved in our own film opening. Horror films often use artificial lighting to further enhance the atmosphere they want to create. The horror film Orphan uses artificial lighting to create mood and also to draw attention to certain aspects of the shot. We challenged this convention and used only natural lighting to maintain a sense of reality. We filmed our opening on days where the sky was grey and just beginning to get dark. This created a very eerie atmosphere, which was then furthered through colour filters during the editing process. Our film opening ends with shots of our antagonist attacking the victim, followed by a close-up of the dead body on the floor. We decided to use a close-up of the dead body as this means our antagonist is not in frame and thus creates a sense of mystery surrounding what will happen to her. Audience members are left to speculate and this paves the way for further plot development. A sense of mystery is essential to horror films and we decided to follow this convention as it keeps audience members engaged throughout. Our film title is placed over a video clip before fading out to black. The title is in the centre of the screen, making it the main focus of this particular shot. It is introduced quite early on in the opening to give hints to the audience of what is to come. This is typical of horror films, and an example of this would be the title of the Saw movies. However, as you can see, the title is placed over a plain black background, whilst ours is layered on top of our film clip. We decided to develop this so that the title would blend in better with the rest of the opening and maintain the sense of realism that we sought out to create. Because we wanted our film opening to be representative of real life, we decided on regular costumes and props. Our characters dressed in everyday clothes but were distinguishable down to the colours of their outfits and what they connote. Our antagonist dressed in all black to represent the darkness of her personality, while our protagonist wore a white dress to suggest purity, innocence and femininity. The only prop used in our film opening was the pair of scissors the antagonist used as a weapon. Most horror films, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, use over-the-top and eccentric weapons. We challenged and developed this convention by keeping our film as realistic as possible. I believe this is effective as the audience can then apply it to their own life, which allows the film to be memorable. The antagonists of horror films are often masked or in other means of disguise. We developed this as, although our antagonist was not masked, we did not draw emphasis to her face until the attack to maintain the sense of reality that we wanted to include in our film. It also builds suspense as audience members await an identity. The horror genre often uses females as the antagonist, evidenced by films such as Orphan and Let Me In, as it challenges the general stereotype. We decided to follow this convention as it goes against the assumption that all women are passive, naive and innocent. We used both diegetic and non-diegetic sounds in our film opening, which were added later on during the editing process. Here we follow the conventions of the genre, as both are predominantly present in horror films. The diegetic sounds we used, footsteps and birds chirping, help to maintain the realism of our film. We also used background music to match the mood of our film opening.